going to go ahead and get started. I'm really excited about this session. Thank you guys for attending. Thank you for your attention. I know after lunch things tend to lull, so I just want to make sure that we keep you entertained. But find my right papers. Oh, I'm moving them over. Brief introduction of everyone. My name is Houston George with GenetWorks Labs. GenetWorks is a specialty lab doing primarily, we focus on genetics and we have really grown into the long-term care space. We work with over 1,000 communities around the country, and we do everything from just COVID testing to advanced diagnostics for pathogen diagnostics with wound, UTI, nail, even GI. So it's a program where you can have all those things on site, and as soon as you see the need for it, we set you up with a portal. You can quickly order. It takes about 2 minutes to order a test, 1 minute to order your FedEx pickup, and it goes out that day. 30 hours later, you get a result. The other thing we specialize in that is becoming very popular, especially in memory care, is pharmacogenetics testing. And that's a test where we do a simple cheek swab. It's anyone in your building could administer that and send it out. And, well, I guess your healthcare staff, anyone on your healthcare staff could. Could administer that and send it out to us, and then you will get a very comprehensive report with personalized medication information for that resident based on their genetics. And as I like to say, we're going from treating the disease to treating the patient based on their genetics. So it is personalized medicine, full support system behind it with pharmacists that will get on the phone with providers and come up with a customized, personalized treatment plan. And then the back 14 pages of that report is a list of medications, use as directed, use with modified use, or do not use. So those are kind of what we do. We sponsor this session, so they let me give my little plug and I'm done. So any questions for me or anybody who has interest, please come up and find me at the end. I'll scan your barcode and I'll make sure I get back to you, or we'll have a conversation tonight over a cocktail. I'm very proud to be a sponsor of this program. I think anything we can do to advance healthcare in the long-term care space, it is very important, and it really has, the things that we're talking about today with the different panels have the opportunity to help you run your building better, more efficiently, utilizing less staff, and provide better care for your residents. And so I appreciate you being here for it. This afternoon, I'd like to introduce the panel. And the bio I got first was Monica, so I'll start with Monica. Monica's an experienced administrator, trainer, and facilitator, and educator with a passion for older adults. She believes in using technology, connecting people and processes. She currently works with large and small assisted livings, communities with everything from licensing, compliance, operations, policy, procedure, emergency planning, and leadership training. And so all things that could really, again, well-oiled machine. Go down the line. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this in order. I got it. Elena? Oh, you guys sat in the right order for me even? Wow, thank you. All right, we planned it. No, we didn't. So this is Elena Cummings, RN BSN, Regional Health Director for Legend Senior Living. She graduated from Pittsburgh University in Massachusetts with a Bachelor's in Nursing, and she is commissioned second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. She served as an Army nurse during Desert Storm, working as a unit manager in an acute care hospital and managing large adult outpatient clinic when she was not on tour duty, right? It goes, I'm going to shorten it so we can get to the thing. Don't worry, baby. She's badass. feel tested badass. All right, next we have Lori. You guys really did sit in order. All right, now we have Lori Kovac. Is it Kovac or Kovac? Kovac, VP of Clinical Services for Sonata Senior Living. Lori's Vice President of Clinical Services. She's worked at Sonata for 5 years and then long-term for 16. So a wealth of experience and knowledge. She currently, her current role involves maintaining regulatory compliance, risk management, developing and enhancing policies and procedures, and oversight of all things clinical. She has experience in ER, oncology, med-surg, and corrections. Julie? Yes. Wow, 100%. All right, so next is Julie Fernandez. She's Director of Team Development and Training for Sonata Senior Living. Julie has more than 25 years experience in leadership abilities in diverse business positions, primarily in senior living and senior care companies. She has a proven ability to either create or revitalize programs and lead organizations in achieving significant operational, financial, and quality improvements. I'm going to stop there. Shorten it up a little bit. And finally, we have Marissa Strain, RN. Oh, sorry. That's right. Which, I don't have your. I know. And finally, Susan Tamalia. I knew your last name. I'm sorry.
It should be there.
Oh. All right. Okay, sorry. I can't read. Finally, we have Susan Tamalia, Division Director of Health and Wellness for Senior Lifestyle Corporation. We work with Susan and her company. We work with several of these companies, actually. Susan has worked as a nurse with seniors for over 26 years. She's currently a Divisional Director of Health and Wellness for Senior Lifestyle Corporation, based in Chicago. She has a passion for teaching, training, and providing support to a large team of health and wellness directors in the Florida area and in several states. So, guys, welcome our panel. Welcome. So, yes.
Hello?
It takes a sec. Wait till it turns green. So we're going to let them start a panel discussion, and it's going to be very back and forth. The more you participate, the more you'll get out of it. So please have questions, and I'm going to let Monica take over.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So we've asked, and also thank you to all our panel members for being here. So we're going to take a few minutes to describe the role of the Health and Wellness Director in each of our companies, and then Julie's going to talk a little bit about onboarding and a couple of other things, and then we're going to open it up for a lot of questions and hopefully a very robust dialogue and sharing from you as well. The reason we decided to put together this session and asked all of these experts to join us is because the Florida Senior Living Association and I have been fielding a lot of questions on what should our Director of Nursing be doing, and just a lot of questions in general. And so we wanted to really talk about it and talk about best practices and really make it a dialogue, because sharing our best practices makes our industry stronger. And I'm going to start with Elena. And I like to stand. You can sit, stand, whatever.
Are you good with it? Are you good if I sit? I talk with my hands anyways. So I have been with Legend Senior Living in the regional role for 3 years. I was a healthcare director for a couple of different other organizations here in my tenure in Florida. And when Monica first asked about the model for a healthcare director, I didn't really think we had one. I asked for a little clarification. So just to kind of explain our approach and our support for it, Legend is a very operationally based organization. I think in the last 3 years, I've personally tried to help grow and develop the nursing, because for anybody that's an operator, you can hate me later. We all know we could probably live without the operator a day or two, but you can't live without your nursing for a day or two. So that's kudos to us nurses. Woo-hoo! And so we've really looked, it's a three-legged stool. It's your operations, your healthcare director, and your sales. I think that's similar in all the organizations. But we really have tried to the best, it's never pure, take some of the non-clinical responsibilities off of our healthcare directors. The focus should be on them being able to be a nurse and a clinician. So while it overlaps, we do try to give a piece of the scheduling to others. We try to get sharing the call off, so it's not just your healthcare director. Setting up transportation and appointments does not need a licensed degree, just saying. And so we've really tried to focus on that. We've also empowered them and really looked to grow our individuals within our organization as leaders. Not just the healthcare director, but really try to build our bench strength within the organization, tap into your strength. So your healthcare directors are key in the assessment and building the relationships with our residents and families. We have an approach, we focus it and teach it as part of our memory care called, based on David Troxell's book, The Best Friends Approach, but that's really common sense in our care. We give better care when we know our residents. So I think that's really been a focus. We really would like our healthcare directors to get out of the weeds And we know right now they're covering shifts and passing meds and doing some of the basic core tasks. Once a nurse, always a nurse. But we're really trying to elevate them within the organization to do a higher level thinking. Not just document the incident report for the fall, but let's do the root cause as to the why, to put some purposeful interventions in place to prevent the next fall. I think we would all agree that the industry in assisted living has changed and evolved, so we're bringing in residents much more acute, much more parallel to the skilled nursing setting than we used to. And so with that comes a lot more risk management, a lot more quality improvement, and a lot more hands-on care. So we'd like to see our healthcare directors really try to elevate what we do and build that relationship with the families, so they're a key part of that success.
Great. Well, guys, is this on? Hello? Same. So I got to stand up. I can't sit here because my legs are too short and my feet don't touch the ground with these chairs. So when we talk about, when we talk about what the health and wellness director does, or our wellness directors do, what don't they do? Right? I see some of our wellness directors in here. They do everything from A to Z, right? But the two main things that we really have to look at, we have to have residents, or we don't need our nurses, and we have to have staff to take care of those residents. So just those two things alone are going to take like 1 million hours a week, right? For our residents, we're always working with, you mentioned the CTM team. Our sales and marketing, they want to bring everything in that can breathe, right? But we have to be able to take care of those people. So it's really important for our wellness directors to really say whether we can take care of them or not. And we can say, no, I can't take that high of an acuity. And your salesperson is going to say, but we got one of those already. Why can't we take 3 more of them? So we have to have the staff to be able to take care of those residents safely. And it's our job to kind of make sure that we're giving a little bit of that pushback. So on top of everything Elena said, and thank you for your service, we just have to work with our CTM team to make sure that we're giving the best care possible and that we have the staffing available to take care of the residents that we say we can. I don't know how to expand anymore on what we do all that too.
We serve in the dining room, we plunge toilets. Yes, we do. Everybody else,
You find it, you clean it. Clinical can help with everything, but nobody can help with clinical.
That's right.
And clinical is asked to do everything, right? Always. So Monica, when we connected, she said, we're going to define the role of a health and wellness director. So I posed that question to my team last week, 20 nurses on a Zoom. Did you do okay. So I posed the question last week, and I got a lot of answers to the question. What don't we do, Susan? We do it all. And not only are our nurses on call, but what we did at Senior Lifestyle, we took a big look at the on-call. What does that look like? The health and wellness director of 2 to 3 years ago, where they're 7, 24, 365 on call, we decided we're not doing that anymore. We certainly need somebody on call, but we've divided that out so that we don't have just that nurse on a Saturday, on a Sunday, on a Friday night. She's getting called. He's getting called constantly. So we took a look at that and said, no more. So we went to ops and said, look, we have to change this. Because I don't know about anybody in this room, but if I did an interview with a recruiter and said, hey, by the way, you're going to be on call 7, 24, 365. I don't know about you, but I probably would say thank you for the interview, right? Because that doesn't even sound like a fun job. And we're all out here competing for the same nursing base, right? We're all looking for those excellent quality nurses. So we had to take a good look at that, and we've changed that at our company. We're not doing that anymore. So that nurse isn't on call every single day. And it's made a huge impact, and that's one of the things the nurses on this call the other day talked about. That really changed our view with our jobs because their role is so vast. we do what we call an impact tracker with our company, and we break down what a health and wellness director does on a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. I took a look at that again last week and said, oh my gosh, I forgot how much a health and wellness director really does. It is an all-encompassing role, and on top of it, one of the things that came up was time. The nurses said, we feel like we just run out of time every day, because who's pulling at them? Sales, they need that pre-assessment, right? And then dining, we're short in dining. Can we have some of the staff? And oh, by the way, staffing. You know, I don't know anybody in this room who's not challenged right now with staffing. So that nurse is wearing a lot of hats. So we have broken it down on a monthly basis. We get all our nurses on a call, and we want to hear from them. What is your barrier today with your role? And there's a lot of barriers. There's a lot coming at them. So this is a multitasking role, as we all know. I'm sure we have some health and wellness directors out here. I commend you. You have the hardest job in the community. So it's up to us as divisionals and VPs, training, support. We're more supportive than ever. I mean, we've decreased. I used to have 25 buildings. I'm way under 20 buildings now, because I can get in there and hands-on help the nurses, work with them, help them with the barriers that they have every day. So that's kind of the approach we're taking. That role as a health and wellness director is so key in our industry right now, more so than ever. So we've just changed our stance at our company a great deal. So we're a lot more hands-on.
And I'm the bad guy because I'm the ops person. So my director of training position right now with Sonata is in place, but my history is as an ops person. So I'm the one that sets those budgets, the one that decides how many people you can hire, what our level of care has to be in order to make numbers. And I'm also the person that gets between the nurse and the marketing person. Because sometimes somebody has to negotiate where we are census-wise versus what nursing is willing or even able to manage with residents coming in. And as mentioned, our residents, are a much higher acuity than they've ever been. They come in with comorbidities. They come in sometimes with just a life expectancy of perhaps a few months versus in the industry in assisted living where you could get that resident for 5 or 6 years. So for my role, number one, whenever I'm in an ops seat, the person that I need to turn to make most of these decisions is the wellness director. Because I have to trust that what your staff can handle. Marketing bring anybody in, but marketing's not there that night when that resident needs care. They went home at 5 or 6 o'clock, and your nursing team is left with whatever mess we brought in that day. And it's usually a Friday afternoon, and you can't get a hold of the physician, you can't get your meds, whatever it is. So one thing we've really learned over probably since the pandemic, when we lost so many nurses, and I'm sure all of you experienced the same thing, when we started bringing them back, or when we started hiring and we started promoting from within, we weren't providing people, number one, with enough transparency for them to truly understand what this job was going to entail, and number two, training. Because you're a nurse, you should know how to get on a cart and pass some meds, right? You know how to document a fall. You should know these things as a nurse. Over the years, what I know is we train nurses how to do documentation now. Most nurses don't come out of school having to do a lot of documentation, or it's done more electronically, and so their critical thinking skills perhaps are not as bold as they should be because they're used to clicking boxes. And I think assisted living in general has been behind the 8 ball in technology. So we're really just getting to a point where we're pulling in those systems, we're pulling in those EMARs, we're behind what skilled nursing used to do. So we're trying to catch up and get people on board with technology. But when we're hiring someone with experience from skilled, they're maybe used to sitting at a desk. They were a director, they weren't on the floor working. In assisted living, our wellness directors, particularly with Sonata, they work, they're on the floor. but they also have all those other responsibilities: interviewing, hiring, training, assessments, service plans, getting ready for making sure you're survey ready even. So the challenges are huge and the hours are long. But what we really have had to do is really step back, no matter how bad we need that person and how much we think their experience should bring to us. They need a good month of training. They need to be at a community offsite. And hopefully, if you're like us, Sonata in Florida, we have sister communities where we send them where they're not being pulled by their new ED. Oh, let me just have Lori for a few minutes. I need her to talk to this family. I want to introduce her. I want her to deal with this staff person. Can we just take her? No, I'm going to take her away, and I'm not going to let you have her for 2 weeks. And then when I bring her back, I'm going to put her on the cart. Because when she is the nurse on the floor on the cart, you get to know your staff, you get to see the problems, you get to see the mess the cart has become, you get to actually start to see where I need to be. And in the meantime, I'm in the office cleaning it out because of perhaps the mess that was left from the previous person because they were so busy. Nothing got filed, nothing got put away. There's a box in the corner of meds that need to be destroyed that no one's taking care of. Whatever it is, we need to set that person up from the very beginning with a clean office. It's sad to say, but we have to put it out there. A clean office, starting with ground zero and all the training they need before we say, oh, here's the schedule. You're on call, here's the phone. This person won't work those hours, but this person, you might be able to bribe them with a gift card to come in and work those hours, right? But you can figure all that out. Just ask, somebody will tell you. And that's just your first day. That's your first day, yes. And then we wonder why we lose them. And because somebody up the street just gave them $15,000 more a year and promised them, you don't have to do any of that stuff. So you know what, we're going to put you behind a desk and let you live a little luxury for a while, when it's not true. We all work in the same circles here, right? It's a very incestuous business. We all know each other, we've worked together. So the ops side of it has to support nursing. I believe our job is to give you the tools you need to do your job, because if I have to do your job, I'm in trouble, for one thing. I have street cred as a nurse, okay? I'll tell you that right now. I can tell you what stage that wound is, right? I can give that PPD if I have to. Don't tell anybody, sure, that's against the law. You train me. I like to learn, I'm good at that. But we need to make sure they have what they need to do their jobs. And as wellness directors, if you don't feel that love, you need to speak up. But you know what? I come with a solution. Don't come to me with a problem. Come to me with a solution to what you need, and let's work it out. And I hope you all work for companies that are willing to listen to what you have to say and take your advice, because you are, as a wellness director, and I know Sonata communities, you are in charge of 100% of resident care, and chances are close to 90% of staff. Because we don't have dining services programs. We have caregivers who serve in dining rooms. So it's your peeps, right? So speak up. Things have to change in your lives, and I hope that you can make a difference. You already do, but let's set some new standards for wellness directors, okay?
Awesome. Here, here.
Thank you all, guys. Thank you. A round of applause for them, please. They deserve it.
Awesome. I have some questions,
Well,
if I may. I wonder if each one of you can take a minute to talk about what your staffing looks like. And the reason I ask this is because some companies have one nurse on staff, and others have nurses 24/7, and then a lot of us have something in between. And I guess I would like to know whether you're talking about AL, memory care, or both.
So we have 10 communities in Florida. 8 of the 10 are AL 7 of the 10 are AL memory care, 84 to 94 residents approximately. We do have one freestanding standalone memory care, one standalone AL in a very small building. That was the start of it all. That's all AL. So in terms of staffing, when I started, we have LNS also in all 10 of our communities. So when I started, it was one of the exciting things. It was, oh, you have 24-hour day nursing, except for the 2 AL only. We've started to look at that, and that's not the case. It's hard to recruit overnight nurses, and we found that there was very little they were doing within their scope of nursing practice overnight, unless you had that one-off resident that would fall or change in condition. And some of those nurses were, that's not my job, I'm not gonna file, that's not my job, I don't wanna do the rounding of the care staff. So we really looked at the value. We really try to look at value added. So no, we don't have overnight nursing in all of our communities. If we're lucky enough to, and it's been purposeful, it's there. Typically, our model would be that we also have the LPN on the floor in addition to the healthcare director, and that nurse will pass the medications in the memory care. We utilize the med techs in the other AL carts, knowing that those are the residents that very often we go from assist with medication to medication administration. So that's our best practice. We've had to be creative with that at times because of the staffing. Okay, I don't have a nurse today. Okay, I'm gonna put the med tech on the cart, but my healthcare director now is gonna go out and take care of the insulins and the nurse-only meds. So we're really thinking outside the box. Our healthcare directors, to your point, I don't have a nurse, so okay, I'm working the shift on the cart. I'm gonna go home for a few minutes, I'm gonna come back in to make sure I get the insulins done for tonight. I don't know about you, but I got the call, it's this time, and the agency nurse didn't show up, and we need to get the insulins in. Well, guys, I live 3 hours away, so I'm not gonna be your solution. So we have to get creative with that. That's the situation that is out there. That's the reality. That's the dirty laundry that happens sometimes for us. And so we really do look for that creativity. I give kudos to all of those people, whether it's your regional nurse, if they're able to, or a nurse from another building that's already passed meds in their building, and now they're driving across the bridge in Jacksonville to go to the other building for us in order to make that happen. And the session prior to this, I don't know if anybody was in it, we were talking about technology and the intervention of a telemed as an ER service. It sounds really great, but I don't know about you, all the telehealth that has come as a result of COVID, the workload of interacting and engaging with that is falling on top of our healthcare directors. So the other focus, I think, in this is how do we capture? You know, you talked about all the things that they do. How does our assessment, how do we capture the time and what's taking the time of our healthcare directors? And it's not always that nursing function, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of same with us. We have 12 communities, and we run the gamut of AL, memory care, IL. So our goal is to have 24 hours worth of nursing in our communities every day. We're not always meeting that goal. And like you said, if we have an insulin or something at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, we might not have somebody on the 3 to 11 shift. We might be running 12 hours a day instead of 24 hours a day. So we had to take a good hard look at some of the residents we were taking, like I spoke of before, because if we're not going to have a nurse available to meet those needs, then we can't have those residents in our communities. We've even gone so far as to discharge some residents in communities where we were having that staffing difficulty. So it is running into a lot of those areas where we're using maybe 16 hours worth of agency a day, or maybe 24 hours worth of agency a day. We had a community down south, airing dirty laundry here, but we did have a community down south that we absolutely had to run agency almost every shift for a good month while we were getting our new hires trained up and on the floor. So it is a really hard situation that we're in right now. Like they were saying at one of the conferences, it's not going to get any better for the next 2 years. So we got to figure out what we can do better. To your point, not having our wellness directors or our nurses doing non-nursing jobs, it's just not going to work for us anymore. Our nurses have to be utilized in the areas that they absolutely have to be utilized. Otherwise, we're just not going to be able to get everything done. Yeah, we have to preserve them. We have brand new nurses coming out, like Julie was saying, that we have to train almost to be a nurse. But we have to have them, so we're willing to do that training. And like one of the others was saying, we're helping out in the communities more than ever right now. We're on the floor. We're helping do, you know, anything. I pulled a 16-hour shift in a memory care when we had COVID in the building just to pass meds in the memory care because we didn't have, our nurses all had COVID. Our wellness director had worked the overnight shift. You know, I can't ask her to work 24 hours, so I was in the community sweating in all that garb. We only had those gowns that were like trash bags. I was like, bruh, it is so hot. Oh my gosh. There was water on the med cart, and I'm like, what is this water coming from? It was sweat coming out of my sleeve. It's like, so really just going through this whole thing of trying to find staff. And like you said, we're fighting each other for the staff that we need. And it's not always the greatest staff either. You know, we're having to train them up from the bottom up. And even our wellness directors, we're promoting our best nurses, but they're nurses. They don't know how to do staffing. They don't know how to do a schedule. They don't know how to be leaders. And then they're failing, they're quitting. So we have to really be behind them and support them in every way.
So I oversee 15 communities here in Florida, and I've got kind of a mixed bag. I've got a couple LNS, I've got an ECC in one of my standalone memory cares that they're not utilizing their license, but they have 24-hour nursing. So what we get caught up in with our company is we're a management company. Senior Lifestyle is a management. We own some, but we manage overall. So when we do acquisitions, that's my budget for nursing. So I may get a community, I just got one down in Jupiter, and they've got 4 nurses on staff. And I said, well, what do they work? And they're like, whatever they want. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So we figured that out. But I do have some communities that the health and wellness director is the only clinician in that community. So the pressure on these nurses is vast. So I'm working on changing that budget so we can add a nurse. If not, get the strongest med tech you have and make them an RCC and train them up, because it is so hard to get nurses into communities right now. Every one of us keeps saying it. We're all from different companies. It is very challenging. And then when you do have an opening for HWD and you pull that floor nurse, they're terrified. They have no idea what goes into that role every single day and all the directions they're being pulled into. So, unfortunately, we're utilizing what we can. Would I like to see 24-hour nursing? That would be great. It's not my reality right now. That would be very challenging. My operators would fight me. I'm positive of it. But also finding it. Where are you going to find it? I also rely heavily on home health. If I want insulin in my building, I will partner with a home health. And I've got a community in Tampa. I've got a home health parked in my building. She does all my insulin. And in the afternoon, she's got another nurse that comes in and does all my insulin. So I've got it covered. So you've got to get really creative, because that health and wellness director, and I tell people, don't be taking all this insulin if you don't have a strong presence of home health and you're the only nurse. And they're like, well, why not? And I said, do you want to work 7 days a week and come in twice a day and give insulin? And they want to take all these, you know, G-tubes. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. But they say, well, why not? I can come. No, you cannot do that. So if you don't have that home health presence, if you're the only nurse, you really need to look at that, unless you're going to add on additional nursing. So like I said, I have a mixed bag.
I just kind of want to put this out here for conversation. We talked about training our own staff, the challenges, the turnover. There's not enough of our seasoned staff to train our new staff. The cycle continues. But we're finding within some of our organizations, regulations, ACA's coming in, they're doing your surveys. We're being asked and being held accountable for the function of the agency within your organization. We would expect that a nurse that's coming in from an agency has some of those basic skills. We certainly can't put them through our onboarding. We are 100% accountable for what they're doing in our building, and there's no accountability for them, and this is a struggle. We want to deliver excellent health care. I think every one of us in this building wants to do that every day, and this has become a huge challenge for us to try to oversee. You can't have your HCDs coming in to train that agency nurse at 10, 11 o'clock at night. If they're going to come in then, they might as well work the shift.
We fought that so hard and lost, unfortunately, because to me, it's poor policy. You know, they're using AL to regulate home health, and it's very unfortunate. I have more questions, but I wanted to make this interactive, and I wondered if anyone out there has questions or comments that they want to ask or add. Yeah.
That sometimes you will take a really good med tech and train them up to be an RCC. What I'm finding is because our electronic charting is point-click care, we don't allow anyone but nurses to do our documentation. So, and that's because of our person who has set this up for us, and because they haven't been trained in proper documentation as a nurse. So now you've got someone who's non-clinical doing what they can, but then it's still falling back on either the wellness director or a day shift nurse, if you have one, okay, to do all the other documentation. That's what I'm finding. So we're trying to make sure we're putting LPNs in our RCC positions, but like you said, we can't find them.
No, so there's 8 of us regional nurses with my company. So we each have a specialty. Mine is documentation. I'm obsessed with it.
Me too.
So we use electronic as well. We use Yardi. I implore HWDs, please train up your med techs. I do not expect documentation to look like an LPN or RN. It's not going to happen. What I train them to do is properly chart. Like, don't put, Monica said, right? Just the facts. So I train them up, and I have the health and wellness directors train up your med techs. And this is hard for health and wellness directors. You gotta delegate. You gotta let go, because
It's not that with us. It's like our system will not allow someone that's not a nurse
so you
to
don't have the
document.
capability to provide access, because we have that capability to provide access. So when I see that a fall is not charted on, I'm making phone calls. Why aren't the med techs at least putting that they fell and the doctor and family were notified, and then you can go in and add your intervention or whatever you need to do for follow-up. And they're like, well, I don't want them in there. They're going to ruin my chart. I would rather explain to ACA that, there's no regulation that says that staff in an ALF in Florida has to document like a nurse. But at least I've got something in there.
It's something to ask. Thank you.
Yes, because it's not a regulation.
Who's
That it has
next?
to be a nurse.
We have to have more questions than that. All right. What's up, cowboy?
He's ready for the party.
No. Thank you all, obviously, for what you do. It's a lot. And on the note of the retention aspect, with the employees that we have, it's now more crucial than ever for the loyalty, facilitating that with the employees. I think a lot of the times with the nurses, they see them on the field. My focus is to try and get the EDs to be a little bit more proactive on the field as well, because that facilitates loyalty. So kind of 2 questions. One, what best practice have you guys witnessed that does aid in the retention of our care staff, floor staff, nurses, et cetera? And then on the other more challenging one, how do you get your EDs in buildings to be motivated to participate and maybe alleviate the load of the non-clinical details that the nurses usually have to do? 2 questions.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask anybody to do anything, whether or not they're actually going to do it is a challenge. I think when we set the standard for our executive directors that you are perfect, and again, sometimes the nurse has to let go a little bit, but our executive directors are perfectly capable of going out and doing an assessment, okay? There is no reason why we can't go and look at a person, check them up and down a little bit. Can you walk for me? Can you, whatever it is, and figure out whether or not that person's appropriate for your community. So some nurses don't want that. But we need to be able to let some of that go and let our executive directors do that piece of it, because that's not as clinical as you think it is in assisted living, but also to be able to go into your systems and do assessments, to sit and talk with the staff. When I fill in, I can sit and pull the caregivers in and say, are you still doing these baths? How many times are you doing this with this resident? How many times do you do this? EDs can do that. But again, there has to be that relationship and level of trust with the wellness director that it's not a brand new ED that doesn't know the community or doesn't know regs. You know, sometimes you hire somebody, they haven't even been through core training yet because they've got a certain amount of time to get core trained or whatever. But even core training doesn't give you the knowledge you need in that sense. So if the wellness directors would ask for that help, with an executive director that they understand, clearly knows the regs, clearly knows what that community can maintain, and let them do part of that job, it would help alleviate that. A lot of our EDs will do the staffing, the schedules. We've taken over doing schedules. We've taken over doing interviewing and hiring in order to, take that off of the wellness director's table every day, which helps quite a bit. But you know what? I like that person. I thought they did good, so they're yours now. Do with what you can with them. So there's always those challenges. But yeah, people need to step up and take that. And that's why when we have those wellness directors that we really enjoy and we know are doing a good job, we can't ask them to be on call 24/7, 365. I can take that call. I can take that staffing call. I can do that interview. I can do that assessment. So we need to help, yes. And as far as retention, what is so hard about doing an employee appreciation? Holy smokes, guys. Buy some gift cards. Write some thank you notes. Recognize people's birthdays. Your care staff aren't looking for a party. They're looking for someone to say, hey, hello. My boss had balloons for me today that I've been toting around all day. Okay, so thank you, Jamie. Yes, if you would like
Happy birthday.
Sing me happy birthday, go right ahead.
Happy birthday. We have either time for one more question, or I will give my worst voice and sing to Julie for her birthday. Thank you. You have a question.
Thank you.
Again, happy birthday, Julie. How do you bridge the gap between sales and clinical for the benefit of the community, occupancy, bottom line, residents, staffing, all of it? How do you bridge the gap?
Who wants to go? Okay.
Again, Julie.
Bridge the gap by making sure our marketing team knows the regs. Every CRD should be able to look at an 1823 and know that it's correct or incorrect. Now, med list, it's filled out whether those meds are right. That's not, we're not clinical in that. But if the 1823 piece is correct, you've got a head start there. So when your CRDs know the regs, know how to look at an 1823, even can go out and do a pre-assessment for you, that's where you're gaining a lot of trust by the wellness director, because they're not being relied on totally to go look at that train wreck that the marketing team should have said right from the very beginning, we can't do this. I am not going to waste anybody's time by sending them out when this person is not going to meet the criteria to come in our community to begin with. So a lot of it is making sure they're well trained and what you need them to know about the regs.
The other thing we're doing too is, and this is my number one complaint from the HWDs, is sales sets up an appointment for a pre-assessment. I don't know about you guys, but if my boss set up appointments for me, she doesn't know my schedule. She knows I'm busy, but they're not allowed to do that. Assessments go through the executive director, who goes to the health and wellness director and says, hey, we really need this assessment. Okay, I'll stop on my way home at the local rehab. I'll go to the hospital in the morning. But we also make sure that they're financially viable. I had a nurse do 18 assessments in 1 week for pre-assessments. Called me, said, I'm ready to quit, I'm burned out. I said, whoa, what's going on? Well, come to find out, out of 18, we had one move-in. One move-in. On top of everything that poor nurse was doing, she did 18 assessments in a week. So we got with our VP of sales, and there, no more. Like she said, EDs can do assessments. Those assessments for pre-assessments, they are not clinical. They're not called nursing assessments. You can't do that in Florida. They're assessments for appropriateness. So there's no reason now, what we did recently, EDs, you are our backup. Your nurse is busy, they're on the floor passing meds, you get to go out and do the assessment. So we have to bridge that gap. Sales and clinical, y'all know, it's been an issue for years, but it can't be an issue. We can't have barriers anymore. We all need move-ins, guys. We got to stay alive with our revenue. So no, we've removed our barriers, because the days of 18 assessments are over for us. We're not doing that.
Before you wrap up, I just want to wrap up real quick and say, first of all, I feel like I could sit here for another hour talking with this panel. So thank you all very, very much. Very appreciative of you sharing your knowledge and best practices. And now I'll turn it over to you to wrap this up.